Welcome to Reels on the Rocks, the show where your hosts Whiskey and Sweet Tea discuss film from the unpretentious perspective. We're opening the Reels on the Rocks vault and revisiting one of our lost episodes. Join us for a taste of Chocolat. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and as always, please be advised that spoilers are ahead. Whiskey, could I interest you in some nipples of Venus?
Welcome back, everybody.
Okay, I finally got a good one, because I'm always trying to match your energy with these openings.
The names for some of her treats were wild. I forgot about that one. That's a good one.
Welcome back, everybody. This is I don't know, I kind of call it a very special episode, in which this is a kind of a resurrecting of what we call one of our lost episodes.
That's actually the theme of this pairing. We have two lost episodes, so we'll discuss it. It's going to be kind of a weird mix of these two. They're not going to seem very related, but I'll let T tell the story in this episode, and in our sister episode, I'll explain. But why do we have lost episodes, T?
So, during the pandemic, before it started, both Whiskey and I lived in neighboring neighborhoods, basically. And actually, I think the same neighborhood in LA. And we would he would actually come to my abode to record. So this was kind of our first time after I had moved out of LA. I was living back in Texas. This was my first time trying to record or figure out how to record across thousands of miles, and it sucked. And I actually remember that when I went to go back to listen to recordings to edit them, I think this was the time that all of the audio, it was it's almost like it jumbled every other syllable. I had no idea. We were trying to use Skype and it didn't work, and it was awful. It was awful.
It's a whole thing.
The recordings were unusable.
Oh yeah. Well, it's funny too, because now that you're bringing this up too, it's nostalgic to think about, because for a majority of this podcast, we've actually done it remotely.
Right.
Ironically, we didn't do it remotely when COVID hit, which coincided with us launching the podcast, which is also ironic. But yeah, no, it's thinking back to our first season, we'd call it, we start off recording essentially in T's closet.
Yes.
We had one microphone that we shared, and we were huddled in a closet.
And it was hot as hell in there. And I was
it was hot in hell in there, which is also why I think it took until at least a year of doing the show before we started actually doing the whole cocktail angle of things.
Yep.
Because we would be we wanted to be coherent because we hadn't done a podcast yet, and also we would have probably died of dehydration. And our episodes were shorter too, which is crazy. We did 45, 30-minute episodes usually. So,
and you and I are just
imagine if we were
too
still doing
that.
We would die if we were doing the sort of things that we're doing now. But onward and upward. The other thing, part of my issue, so I didn't, like I said, we shared a microphone because of COVID. Because of COVID and various other things, I didn't have a lot of expendable income. So, I was kind of trying to not buy a microphone. So I had an old shotgun mic for my camera that I plugged into my laptop, which I don't have that laptop anymore, and that thing was kind of busted. And so, I could see the audio waves seemed to be working, but I bet it was recorded out of my laptop's built-in microphone. Because that thing was broken anyway too, so it was a mess. But we recorded both episodes. I sent the audio off, hoping for the best, and it was just unusable. And after this was also, we used to record 2 episodes at a time.
Yep.
So it was just sort of after 4 hours of talking about these movies, it was just you know what, screw it. I'm going to buy a microphone and we're going to do this right the next time. So that's my side. So that's We'll be
I
retelling this lore in our sister episode as well, but it's like
I have a flashback to when actually during COVID, I think you came over to record a couple episodes during then, and you would come over and you'd be like, I'd be like, hey, now you got to stand in the vestibule and I got to Lysol you, and you got to
yup.
stay there for a minute.
Which is funny because that's like one of those things in early COVID. Like I kind of did that too with my groceries because it was like, oh, you just have to like disinfect everything, and we know now that it's like, not really.
Yeah.
Like it's
We didn't
it
know
is.
where it was coming from yet. We didn't know where. We didn't even know if it was airborne or not at the time.
I think it was strongly believed it was airborne, but there was like, fun fact for up until just a few years ago, like there was a thing the CDC said that it would be better for men to like be freshly shaved, like no beard,
Yeah.
is better, like to not catch it. And I internalized that advice so much that I think I didn't shave, or I shaved. For like 3 years or something like that. After it came out that that was not the case, I just did it because I didn't like having a beard when I had to wear a mask everywhere.
Yeah.
So
The
I
face
just
got
like,
hot.
and once the mask thing was officially over, I was just like, oh cool, I can grow out facial hair again. But yeah, I'm sure everyone's got COVID stories, but looking back at that time is so surreal now. It's crazy. But anyway, so let's get right into it. What are you drinking for this episode, T?
So today I making myself, of course, it's on theme, drinking chocolate.
Nice.
Different than hot chocolate, it's much more thick and viscous. It's also not sweet. I think the first time actually I had drinking chocolate was because of this movie when when we lived in Boston. There was this little chocolate shop right off of like oh my god, what is that street called? Newberry, right off of Newberry. And it was like between two skyscrapers, and it was like a tiny little house called, and it was this chocolate company called LA Burdicks. You could go in there and they had different levels of like bitterness and stuff to try. And so I got some of this, and I remember the first time I had it, I was shocked at how unsweet it was. Like it's not like rancid tasting, but it's just when you're used to like hot chocolate, the two things throw you off. One is the texture, the second is there's no added sweetener to this. It's literally just the flavor of cacao.
There we go.
So that was my first time ever having it was there, and it was because of this movie that I actually sought it out. Here, I had to go to the grocery store. There's a company called Guittiards that makes drinking chocolate powder, and my favorite part was last night I realized, oh my god, I don't have everything I need. So the grocery store closed at 11. I'm like flooring it at like 10:45 at night to go to the nice grocery store where they have bulk spices, so I can get chili powder to sprinkle into it, for like the for the proper drink for this. But I got it. I ended up getting cayenne pepper with my drinking chocolate. The only thing I don't have is natural whipped cream, but I figured I'll be okay with ready whip for this one. But
Right?
yes, I'm like, I just wanted to be on brand and make it as close as possible to the movie.
Yeah, no, and I did something similar. So, like, for drinking, we're both being kind of healthier in this episode. I decided to forego any booze. Is Lent going on right now? I'm not Catholic, so I don't know.
How dare you? Yes, no, it is Lent. The
Okay,
Comte would not be
so
pleased.
you could say I'm giving up alcohol for Lent for this
There
episode,
we go.
but I just didn't feel really like getting too wasted for this movie. So I'm being a performative male, and I've got some matcha. And for the chocolate, because you have to, it's funny too. I wonder if all I did for the original botched recording, I wonder if I just got like Hershey's with almonds. There's a Ghirardelli close to where I work, and so after work yesterday, I like popped over there because I was like, maybe I'll do hot chocolate, but let me just get something. And like you, I wanted to do something legit, just like the chocolate from South America. I wanted like high cacao, so I just got myself a bar of Ghirardelli's 72% intensely dark chocolate.
Ooh,
and
okay.
so I'll be munching on that while we talk about it with my matcha.
Actually, with relation to one of the characters in the movie, his interests and yours kind of cross over, and she recommended dark chocolate for him. So,
Right?
actually,
Right?
that is very authentic. So as you can tell from the discussion of our beverages, we will be discussing the movie Chocolat from 2000. This is one of my favorites too. It's such a just a vibe movie. I was actually introduced to this during Lent over a decade ago by my aunt when I was visiting her in upstate New York. And it was during Lent. I was visiting, I think, for Easter. And she was like, I have the perfect movie. And life has never been the same. This is such a good movie that I really enjoy. And it's perfect for this time of year. And we will get into this when we discuss the next movie in the pairing. But I actually do think it is an appropriate pairing. I don't think it's as out there as Whiskey is letting on. But Chocolat
Right.
is what we'll be discussing today. Now, because this is a lost episode, I have kept the same notebook for all 6 years of this podcast so far. I'm actually almost done with it. So I was able to flip back to the original. So I will be pulling notes from that as I see relevant. But you will hear a lot of me being, okay, hang on, let me check because of my handwriting. I was very optimistic though when I wrote these notes, though. I can tell I used my fountain pen to do that. And yeah. So this our actual original recording, as you can tell how long ago this was on March 18th of 2021. So here we go. Let's get into this. Chocolat. So just the basics, already starting off with the comments with my handwriting, but here we go. It was directed by either it's Lassie or Lass Hallstrom. The music was by Rachel Portman. It was starring, actually, I didn't even write down what their characters were in relation to their names. Starring Juliette Binoche as Vian, Victor or Victoire. I took French in high school. I don't remember my pronunciation, so I do apologize to any French speakers or the nation of France in general for my pronunciation. Victoire Fisvisol as Anouk, Judi Dench as Armand, Alfred Molina as the Comte, Lena Olin as Josephine, and Johnny Depp as Rue, the river rat, as they call him in the movie. This was wildly successful critically wise. Actually, even reception wise. So this was up for a bunch of awards at the Academy Awards, including Best Actress, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Original Score, and Best Picture and Best Supporting Actress. It won none of those. It was also up for a bunch of BAFTAs. Best Actress in a Leading Role, Best Actress in a Supporting Role for both Judi Dench and Lena Olin. And then we had Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Cinematography, Best Costume Design, Best, does this say, Makeup and Hair. Okay, I thought it said Music and Lyrics, and I was like, I don't remember any songs in there. Best Production Design. It had multiple SAG nominations. It looks like Judi Dench won for Outstanding Performance by a Female Actor in a Supporting Role. Had multiple Golden Globes noms. It had, is this right? Did I write down it had a Grammy Award nomination, and it had some WGA nominations as well. This year, though, stiff competition just based on simply who some of the other nominees were that year. We had Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Aaron Brockovich, and Traffic, and Gladiator as well. So it was a stacked year. Unfortunately, my thoughts of Gladiator are colored by Ridley Scott, but other than that, I will say that there was it was a good year in movies, because as somebody who for the longest time hadn't seen any of those movies, I remember all of those names from watching the Oscars as a kid. So big year. So you, not really your first impressions, but kind of, because you've seen it before. But before you had watched this for the show, had you ever seen this before? Had you heard of this before? What was going on?
So I do not have all of my notes like T. My notebook, it's hilariously, I'm almost done with it, but like I was using graph paper for a while. But it's like notebook paper, so whenever, just to get it out of, not clutter anything, I would once the episode was out and up and everything, I would just toss the paper. So I don't have all my notes. Frankly, I probably wouldn't have kept them either because I just remember being so frustrated when it didn't work out. I would have probably just been like, to hell
Throw it
with it,
out. Never want to see it again.
right? Never see it again. But I do remember because I remember going into this that this was a critically acclaimed film. It sounded a lot artsier than what I got. Because I was thinking it was going to be like a French film. I thought it was probably going to be like subtitle. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it's with the Academy Awards, you have like an expectation with a film called Chocolat. Like you
Yeah.
don't think it's going to be this kind of movie. So I was surprised by that. Not in a bad way. I liked this film a lot. Like my first impressions were like, oh, this is neat. I also do remember, and I still feel this way, that she reminds me a lot of Mary Poppins. The way
Yes.
she like magically appears in a town when the wind changes. And yeah, it's like for anyone who hasn't seen it, and we recommend you see it if you listen to the show. It's kind of this like isn't this would this be considered, because I know magical realism is like a sort of subgenre you like, is that what this would be constituted as?
I think it
Because it's a
falls.
very
I think it falls under it. Some people call it like a sort of like a real, more like a realistic fairy tale or a
yeah,
magical realism. So I, to me, it's very magical realism because they really do sort of play up of the magic of the winds and of tradition and the magic of chocolate. Like for example, like the whole like cocoa nib scene at the towards the beginning of the film when she's like, this will
yes,
make your husband thirsty for you, and she's like, no, it's not. And it's kind of like, it's kind of, you know, it's almost like sort of like it's granting a wish. She's like, she's almost like she's showing up and she's granting people's wishes and improving their lives.
yes.
It's kind of a take on, I think, a more updated take, maybe less offensive take, which is hard to say because this protagonist is white, of like the magical minority trope a little bit, where, you know, they basically it's a person, it's a minority who usually shows up simply to help typically the white protagonist with, you know, some sort of powers or mysticism or something. So it has a little bit of that in it, but is less problematic, I guess, way to say too.
Somewhat. It's because you would think, I don't know. Like I'm not going to argue that this movie's problematic because I don't think it is. But like if someone wanted to be kind of an ass about it, they could be like, well, if she, because the thing that's neat about this movie and what I wasn't expecting, because it's a very, like you said, realistic fairy tale is a good descriptor. It's very grounded, but then there's like fantastical elements, like the fact that she just leaves town whenever the wind changes. Like she
Yeah.
can't fly around like Mary Poppins, but she puts on her little, walking cloak and gets her daughter, and they just go to wherever the wind tells them to go.
Literally
Um,
blows into town.
and then same thing, like the chocolate seems to have magic powers. The way she's able to know what your favorite chocolate is, but there's not like magic, quote unquote, in the movie. So it's like very interesting in that sense. And you have this town that's very, very strictly Catholic, and they don't do, as the narrator says, like they like their tranquility. But what it really is their mayor and the count, I guess. It just is very overbearing on his citizens and kind of polices them in this passive aggressive way.
Well, you know, it's kind of like it's kind of like the way that it it's very very similar to the way that people talk about small towns even here. It's like, you know, everyone's like, oh, you know, everything looks nice and pretty and whatever, but you know, underground there's massive problems. Everybody kind of just ignores them. Like, what is she at the beginning? If you have a problem, you look away. You know, if you see something you shouldn't, you don't talk about it. It's very very much kind of like it's talking about the stuff the town doesn't talk about. We see the stuff happening that nobody else sees. Like we see Josephine, you know, because she's kind of like a klepto a little bit towards the beginning. She's just stealing from people. We see, I'm trying to remember who we see that we see the Luke, which is the little boy. We see that he, you know, is not really sure what's going on. He's drawing, ironically, very disturbing imagery. Um, And just stuff like this that people don't talk. Even with the Combs, we find out later that his wife left him. Nobody talks about that, and it's kind of like to the point, and it's even sort of hinted at that maybe the entire town knows this. Like Caroline, the Carolyn character, finally says something, but I think it's kind of a little bit that everyone kind of knows she's not coming back, but no one talks about it. No one talks about things that they should. No one deals with their problems. The point is to make sure everything looks nice and well kept and whatever, which is kind of like it's a small town thing. It's not even just like even a European town in the 50s problem. Like we still sort of have that problem a little bit today. It's all about appearances.
Another angle I was thinking of the entire time I was watching this, because I remembered this movie pretty well, because I liked it. But it's funny how on this podcast there's a lot of happenstance that kind of our episodes come out at the right time, or we plan things at the right time. Because all I could think of while watching this right now is like, oh man, this lost episode has aged like wine.
Yeah,
because
right.
When we recorded that episode, things were not going great. Lockdown was still like the pandemic was quote unquote over, but you still had to wear a mask. Nobody left their place. The economy was still sluggish. Like things were not good. But considering the way things are currently in the world, it mirrors a lot of what's going on in this town.
Oh yeah, a lot of like policing.
Oh man, well, talk about the river rats.
Yes, right. The river rats. That's easily be a stand-in for immigration right now.
Oh yeah, well, there's that, and I'm sure it was meant to be that when the movie came out too. But there's that. There is kind of the Catholic policing of all the citizens, like, oh, you need to go to church. There's the remark about the illegitimate child, which is like that's like it's not like abortion related, but you could, I don't know, it's same kind of judging a woman for like having a kid out of wedlock kind of thing. Man, like this, if anyone's listening who hasn't seen this movie and does not care about us ruining movies on episodes and they're like intrigued by it, watch this movie. It's eerie how good it is for like what's going on right now, is as like kind of more lighthearted and corny as it can be at times. Then you have, like, speaking of Josephine, that whole side plot is also probably the plot of the movie. Like there's a few things going on, but I feel like she is kind of the character that has the most of a change. Like it's one of those cases like Mary Poppins where the protagonist is helping solve problems, and she does have kind of a change at the end where she's not going to let the wind dictate what she does with her life, and she's going to allow her daughter to stay in a town and not have to like relearn how to make friends and all that stuff. So she has a turn, but I'd say like Josephine is and I'm it's the right character, right? With the abusive husband.
Yes, that's Josephine.
Just making sure I'm not mixing it up. But yeah, she to me was just kind of the character that I think is more emblematic of like the core story of the movie, because you also have the river rats, you have the Judi Dench character who's like diabetic but still eats the chocolate and has like an estranged relationship with her grandson, who's also like the mother is in love with the Comte, and that's the whole thing.
And I you know what actually I want to circle back to something you said earlier, but I want to say I do think I agree with you that Josephine she's sort of emblematic, as I think she's almost like the stand-in for the town.
Yes,
in a way. But I want to circle back to something you said about the Catholic policing, which is actually something that's interesting you bring up, because now this movie is not an original movie. This is an adapted from a book, also called Chocolat, which came out the year before. Like, you want to talk about quick turnaround, by Joanne Harris. One of the major changes they made from the book to the movie, and because they wanted to avoid controversies in the book, the Comte doesn't exist. They're actually referring to in the book the priest of the town. But they wanted to avoid problems with I think it's anti-clericism. I think that's the right term.
I got
Um,
you.
so they created this character of the mayor to kind of sidestep that, because that wasn't the point of the book, but it could be. But discussion about that could sidetrack your understanding of the movie, if that makes
For
sense.
sure.
Because in this movie, the priest isn't like, first off, it's hilarious how he looks like he's like 5. He's like so young in this movie. But the priest, he's still rigid, but even he is like, dude, this is too much. Like, to the stuff that Combs putting out. Let's talk about themes with this movie. I think one of the big themes of this movie is, the dangers of tradition. Because tradition in a way can be very good. It kind of reminds you of where like you've come from. It can help create sort of an established culture in a place. It's something that also binds people, but also can be very, very ostracizing. And I'm talking about on both ends here. We have the tradition of the villagers and the way things are always done. The comte tells what to do. This is just what we do to maintain peace. We outsiders know. And then we also, on the other end, we have the tradition of Vian, who is essentially, while she's doing a lot of good, she travels from town to town, but her child is being hurt by this process. She's not feeling this need to travel and go wherever all the time. And she basically develops an imaginary friend as a kangaroo to deal with the fact that she has no real friends. And that's something Vian has to realize at the end of the movie, when she discovers the importance of having an established community. So I kind of think that's kind of what the overall all theme of this film is. What do you think?
I think that that's very insightful, and like it could be argued that every side plot has something to do with tradition. Even Josephine, it's more of like they're getting it from Catholicism, but it is sort of just a cultural thing with people. Is like, oh, you are like your husband's property, and you're not allowed to like want to divorce them or leave them or whatever. Like you have to stick through. But that's like a traditional thing. It's not just like with Catholicism. And let me think of all the other side plots
Well, it's like
too.
even like the comte. The comte is the way he's trying to live up in the shadow of the founder of the town, which was like his great great
Yep.
great grandfather, whatever, who's literally a statue in the town. Like,
Yep.
he's living under a constant shadow of tradition that's been set up by this man. We have Caroline and her mother. It's traditional for when the elderly member is in poor health, and they go to the, what they call it, the Mortimer. There,
The retirement home.
the retirement home, but they basically call it, I think, like the death place or something in French. The retirement home, it's traditional for her, for that's what, because the fact that she said when we were kids we called it this. This is something people know about. There's that, but it created this whole sort of rift between them. We have, I mean, this one isn't as dangerous, but then we have, the fact that once somebody is widowed, you don't pursue them anymore, and that kind of led to loneliness from, and I forget what their names are, that young lady, not young lady, that elderly woman, and that other guy. He was like, the war's been over for 14 years. No, this was World War One back in 1917. It's like, dude, it's been long enough. There's just all this is a movie as to like why it's not, I wouldn't even say it's anti-tradition. I said I think it's pointing out the dangers of just kind of blindly following these traditions without any
You
thought
could
to
say
how it's
it's pointing
affecting.
out the absurdity of
Exactly. And I think no scene of is more poignant about that than when she's getting ready to leave the town, sort of like three-quarters of the way through the movie, and she's literally sitting there and she's talking to the vessel that I think her mother's ashes are in, and she's just going, "Yes, mother. Anything you say, mother." I'm like, that is, I think, to me, is the most disturbing scene. This isn't even a disturbing, but I think that scene is, think about it, is quite disturbing. She's just kind of blindly listening to what this jar is telling her what to do, and it's kind of like it's almost like a dead hand clause. Really, it's so bizarre, to see
Well, it
that. And
reminds me of Norman Bates talking to his mother's mummified corpse in the basement.
exactly. It's just there's just something just incredibly odd and kind of unsettling about this, and it's just it's just you're basically doing stuff just because this is the way things have always been done. Um, I think you're right. I think it's it's not anti, but it points out the absurdities really of this. You know, you were gonna say something. Go ahead.
Well, and that's the thing too with what genre is this movie? Like, a lot of it you could argue is a comedy. Obviously there's some stuff that is not funny, but it is just very like quirky. And yeah, I don't know. Like, the stuff with Josephine's not funny. Obviously, what happens to the river folks boats towards the end, it gets quite harrowing. And I guess like you said, maybe like a modern realistic fairy tale, I guess, but it is kind of interesting. Like, it's got that like lighthearted tone despite some of
Yeah.
the more darker subject matter that it covers. But yeah, no, I think that is, as I said, very insightful, and I don't think we touched on that last time, unless it's in your notes. I don't know if that was something, because again, I want to say it's been like 5 years since we attempted that episode, which is crazy that we've been doing the show that long. But anyway, yeah, like, is that something you touched on last time? Because I feel like that's
I talked a lot about, and my notes are very dense. I was still trying to figure out. We were still trying to figure out the direction we wanted the show to be in, and so I was touching a lot on symbolism and kind of just like the religious symbolism that is present in the movie. So I don't think I had that written down. This is an interesting note I have because I haven't seen this other movie in a long time, and so I'm not sure. Oh, actually, no, I do know what I'm trying to say. Um, okay, so it took me a minute to realize what this note was, and I just realized what I was trying to say. So you've seen The Exorcist 3, correct?
yeah, yeah. Well, of course I have, because I'm the one who introduced it to you.
Exorcist 3 Legion. So there's a scene in that movie when the evil has entered the neighborhood. It's like there's a scene where the church doors blow open and like all of, like, the leaves and papers from outside come into the church and all this high wind. And I wrote down that the scene at the very beginning when Vion is arriving into town, where the wind's showing up too, the doors of the church blow open. And I said that's very reminiscent of The Exorcist 3, from the eyes of the Combs, because he's the one that gets up to close the doors. It is almost like the evil is entering our humble homes and our town. It's arriving.
You heard it here first, everybody. Chocolate and also magical women are demonic and must.
unless
No, Well, you know what's funny too? Like, I introduced you to that movie, and I feel like that was like the year prior or something. So it must have been fresh on your mind, because that is such a. You're not wrong. It's just such a funny thing where it's like, oh, this is just like The Exorcist 3.
Right. No, yeah, and it took me a minute to realize what I was trying to say because I just wrote it down in shorthand.
Right?
One of the funnier scenes I kind of think is there's a lot of the Comp storyline has to do with temptation. And when kind of like when people think a lot about temptation now, it's usually depicted usually as like a temptress or like a sexual tempting is kind of like one of the best ways or the most common ways I think it's depicted usually in movies and TV and in books. So it was interesting to kind of see how wholesome his temptings were. Like, and there's one scene, it's literally a croissant. And he is like, nope, I'm going to go ahead and slide this picture in front of it. I will not be tempted by the croissant. But when he finally breaks, which is so funny, it's like literally just hours before Lent is over, which I'm like, dude, I actually probably in another country you made it through Lent. But when he finally goes and he's like, I'm gonna destroy the chocolate shop, and he accidentally tastes the chocolate. His eating of the chocolate, as I was trying to describe somebody, it's like it's oddly
It's
sensual.
cathartic for him.
It's cathartic, but it's the way it's shot is oddly sensual.
Well, and the way that it's like she has this very poetic way of explaining herself at the beginning of the movie, where she's like like chocolate, in ignites desires within yourself, I think is the way she puts it.
Oh yeah,
And
it's
this is a man who has been, his wife left him. He clearly still loves his wife because he has a picture of her on his desk that he's staring at all the time. So it's almost like he's trying to not just live up to the expectations of his ancestor, but it's almost like if he's good, that she'll come back to him. That's kind of what
yeah.
I got from it this time around. So I feel like, yeah, I feel like it's an extension of his longing for his wife, but I also think it's from years of just, not allowing himself any kind of decadence.
Yeah.
It's just almost this letting the floodgates go. And the other thing I was thinking of, speaking of tradition, this is such like a minor thing; it's easy to forget too. But so when she comes to town, she buys an old patisserie, uh, and everyone's expecting it to be a patisserie when she opens, but it's not. It's a chocolate shop. Uh, Chocolaterie or something, I can't say it in French, but that is
Chocolaterie.
also her breaking from tradition. It's like, oh, she's selling sweets for sure, but they used to be, cakes and pastries and things like that. But now, instead of a patisserie, this town has a chocolate shop. So it's breaking from who knows how many hundreds of years of that store being a patisserie.
I actually, you just made me think of something. So because we talk about her opening the chocolaterie, um, and so the Comte says, and even Caroline says the same thing. It's like, oh, you're opening a chocolaterie during the Lenten
Lent.
fast, and well, I kind of understand what it is. My understanding of Lent is a little bit different, and I'm trying to understand because basically they said now. Okay, now of course, and I'm not sure this has anything to do with it. This is also pre-Vatican II, by I think like 3 or 4 years. But it seems like in this in at least at this moment in time, or at least this form of Catholicism, because it can be argued that I am uh I practice Reformed Catholicism. I don't even know if that even exists, but a little bit chiller with things. But there, it's almost like they can't have anything that could be considered indulgent at all. And like usually, like when we practice Lent, there's something that you consider, either a vice or something excessive, or that could be considered just to give up for Lent. And then you have your Sunday, which is your day of celebration, which you are allowed to indulge. But it seems like in here it's like anybody doing anything is like, oh my god. It's like, I'm like, did everybody in the town give up chocolate? You kind of have to stop and wonder that. I think it's just a super super strict doctrine that they're here adhering to. Now of course I'm throwing out a bunch of information that probably has no benefit, means nothing to most people, but it really had me sort of thinking, because this is in 19, I think I want to say 59 is I think when this takes place, I think.
Yeah, well, and it's one of those things with me. I am not a Catholic, so I am aware of Lent, but I've never grew up practicing it or anything. So, like, my understanding was also, oh yeah, you just pick something to give up. Maybe it's sweets, maybe it's television. I knew a lot of people who did that for Lent. Various whatever, like, is something you want to cut back on. You just kind of do it. And the whole thing, it's like, I know it's modeling Jesus's fasting for 40 days and 40 nights in the desert. So it's like with him, I know that was like very intense. So yeah, I'm the same way, where when that happened both times watching, I'm like, oh, well, at this time watching, I wasn't as surprised. First time viewing, I was like, well, wait a second, isn't Lent just one thing? But this time, because I was aware of what movie I was watching, I'm like, oh yeah, because the Kant's a jerk, and he's probably making them, it's like, oh, all you can eat is like boiled eggs and
What's he having?
unseasoned vegetables.
He's like restricting himself to like lemon water. Oh my god.
Yeah. So
Uh,
like that's the thing. Like I again, the first time I watched this, I was like, did Lent used to be different? But I just interpret it as this is the Kant's rules. It's kind of like also how that very nice priest, he'll do a sermon, but the Kant has to read over his sermons and make notes.
right.
It's like this isn't Catholicism. This is his own religion that he is imposing on everybody, including the town priest.
Which could be
Um,
argued is perfect for discussions about Christian nationalism, but we're not
oh
going to get
man, again,
we're not
this
getting into that.
movie.
Yeah, right. We're not getting
It's
into that topic. But go
well,
on.
no, I'm just saying. Again, it's speaking of acts of God, like it's funny that this episode did not come out when it was supposed to. Because again, like I already brought this up, but as far as like it being something to touch upon, like it's so much more relevant right now than when we originally talked about it. To the point where we could make an episode about that because it is, we do avoid politics to an extent on this show, but speaking of Christian nationalism, it's just like Christianity in the United States is its own thing. Like if you talk to Catholics in Italy or Europe or like any other part of the world, it's very different from how we interpret it in this country.
Hmm.
To the point where it almost feels like it's its own cult. And you have politicians and other people being like worshipped as if they're like false idols. So we're not going to get into it per se, but it is something to think about as far as themes and things in the movie, or how this could, art is imitating life or vice versa. And I mean, when this film came out, it was 2000, so the Bush stuff hadn't really happened, but it makes me think of that movie Jesus Camp too, where you had that church camp where they're praying to a cardboard cutout of George W. But that's the way I interpret the Lent, is that it's the Kant's deal. He's making the rules. It doesn't matter if that's how Lent is practiced anywhere else. It's his town.
Right. It's really like you said. It's his interpretation of everything, and everybody else kind of goes along with it.
Exactly.
So one of the things I think is really good about this movie is I think the music is incredibly beautiful. I think Rachel Portman did a fantastic job with this soundtrack. I used to listen to, specifically when I was in Boston, I would used to listen to this when I was walking to class on super windy days and pretend I was arriving into a small town. I kind of love when music really sort of able helps you not only remember the visuals but also sort of just really like allows you to escape into like its own sort of world. And I kind of think Rachel did an incredible job here with the score. And then kind of also on top of the classical score we have in there, she also was able to kind of evoke sort of these South American or Mayan vibes and kind of nicely putting them together with sort of a more Western European sound.
I'm glad you brought that up too, because that's something I almost forgot because when I was watching it last night, I forgot about, because the score is very like magical sounding. It sounds like fairy tale music,
Yeah.
but especially whenever there's something going on with our main character, there's like an element, like you said, of South American music. It's like the pan flute,
Yes.
like Peruvian kind of notes in there and stuff, and it gives the score a memorable sort of flair to it that otherwise it would be kind of like, it's good music, and I know what you mean about like walking to class, because it's the kind of music that you could walk to and feel like you're about to do something important out in the world.
Listen,
But I
I like
could
to
see it
romanticize my
being
life.
right. I could see it being a bit forgettable without the pan flute stuff, but it's good composition. And we talk about like male dominated roles in filmmaking, and I don't think we've really talked about that so much. But you don't see women composers as much either. Like, at least as far as like the most influential film composers, it's always dudes, John Williams or Hans Zimmer, or, so cool because she was nominated for best original score, correct?
Correct.
That was
She's
one of the Oscars.
not only for she was nominated at the Oscars, the BAFTA, and she was also nominated at the Grammys.
And there we go. And again, this year was Gladiator, so she lost to Hans Zimmer's Gladiator score. So I mean, it's one of those things where it's like you can't be mad at it, and it doesn't indicate that her score was like any worse or anything. That was something that really surprised me way back in the original recording, because like you listed off all of the awards. And I was just like, whoa, this was up for best pick. Like, I was kind of amazed because I had not seen it, or heard of it. Like, I had heard of it from film people saying like, oh, I love Chocolat. But again, like, because it was film people, I assumed it was like a much more artsy kind of movie. So that was something that was really amazing to me when we first recorded this, is it was like, oh my God, it was up for like all these major categories, and somehow I just have not seen it until now. And I was probably too young to really watch it when it came out, because in 2000 I was like in first or second grade. So probably not going to watch this one. But
yeah, I don't think it would have held your focus back then, because I was in first grade when this came out too. So.
I think I would have. I don't think I would have understood everything, because like that was the other thing too. This is rated PG-13, right? I couldn't remember.
It is, but I remember it being rated PG at one point. So I wonder if it got a revised rating.
Okay, I just had to make sure, because I was like, is this one of those movies? Because sometimes movies are rated R, and then you're like, what? Why? Because I was thinking like maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. But yeah, that was something with this movie that surprised me the first time we recorded, and it is unfortunate that it didn't win anything. Well, like at least at the Academy Awards, it won stuff outside of that. But I do think it deserves all the nominations it got. It wasn't like an Academy Award friendly movie. This isn't something that the Academy would vote for, unfortunately. But I'm glad it at least got nominated. And I'm glad that a lot of film people love this movie. Again, like I heard about it from word of mouth before we recorded that episode or anything. So movie people do like this movie.
So now speaking of that, I'm referencing Wikipedia now for this. So this was financially successful, very financially successful. It had a budget of $25 million, and it grossed $152,699,946. Ironically, it was not successful in France.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about artsy people, like the French are like the most pretentious film snobs. The film snobs in America couldn't dare out-snob the French. No offense to any French listeners.
Well, it says, so according to this, it says the film received a mixture of reviews from critics with some dismissive of the film's tone. And this is something that I've come across many, many times. It's like if something is either too lighthearted, too happy, too cute, it's like people dismiss it as having no substance. And that's something that bugs. It's like unless we have people being brutally murdered and everyone's sobbing over it for 5 hours, it's like it doesn't have a point. And I don't like that that's kind of a tone that they took on it when it came out, because it said currently, even right now, only has a 64% review on Rotten Tomatoes.
Interesting.
But yeah,
yeah, no, I mean, I certainly don't disagree, or I don't agree with that. It's literally what I'm always telling you about the later seasons of The Bear, because it's the same deal. It's like with that TV show, unless that family's yelling obscenities at each other, the critics are like, I don't know, it's not as good as it was when Jamie Lee Curtis crashed her car into the house. No, yeah, no, this is the thing. It's the case with a lot. I think we've gotten better though. Even though it is like kind of a sad movie, Hamnet was like a very female focused movie. It was based on a book written by a woman. It was directed by a woman. It was the biggest performance for a woman at the Academy Awards this year. So like that is a kind of movie I could see being considered lesser like 20 years ago, or like the fact that it was nominated is pretty cool, and it is again a story with Shakespeare that does not focus itself on Shakespeare. So I feel like we've gotten better about that, but yeah, this also a few years ago kind of applies to Barbie.
Right.
Just anything that's not like super serious and dour and disturbing or intense, or like the Academy likes specific kinds of movies. Sometimes they can give awards away to fun stuff, but typically they want the kinds of movies I will admittedly say that I like a lot. the very artsy cinematography, the bombastic music, the "oh, you killed my sister, you best," like that sort of stuff. But I do think it is at least notable and admirable that it made it as far as it did for the year 2000.
Yeah. No, yeah, like this is what I like this. It's Elvis Mitchell wrote in his New York Times review that he said this is an art house movie for people who don't like art house movies, and I can kind of really agree that that's true.
Well, and it made money.
It made
and the budget is nuts on that too. 20 mil is like, I mean, it's more back then than it is now, but that's still like a micro budget. So that's impressive, and also like quadrupling the return. It got its revenge in that way. I mean, unfortunately, again, it lost to Gladiator, which was a powerhouse as far as ticket sales for that year as well, but you can't say it wasn't successful.
Yeah, well, okay, now unfortunately we're going to have to bring up somebody who has not aged well, because this was a Miramax production.
Oh my god. You know what's crazy?
What's crazy?
And I know this because I was doing my research for it today. Both of these are Miramax films. Both of our sister films.
Oh, that's right.
Crazy coincidence.
I forgot about
if we still cared about getting these out at a specific time, it could have been Miramax March.
Oh my god, right? So this is an interesting little tidbit. It says that Harvey Weinstein, after criticisms from papers like the Boston Globe, USA Today, the Village Voice, Entertainment Weekly, it says Harvey Weinstein challenged USA Today critic Andy Seiler to choose a venue where the film was showing, because he wanted to prove to him that audiences liked it even if critics didn't, because I guess this guy didn't think anybody would like it. And so I guess they did, and after screening in Washington, D.C., they asked the audience for their feedback, and nobody had anything negative to say. So that's a little. I mean, that kind of goes a little bit into the ego of Harvey Weinstein, but I think that's actually interesting. Now, the Boston Globe said, and what we've discussed so far as themes and stuff in this movie, Jay Carr from the Boston Globe said that the movie's not deep, and I'm just like, did we watch the same film? Because I feel like there's a lot of depth into what's going on here. Just because it's easily digestible doesn't mean it's not deep. And I kind of think that's what his problem is.
And again, like, yeah, this isn't as intense and brutal as Gladiator, but I mean, you can't watch the scene where, oh my goodness, what's her name? Where her husband is coming after her drunkenly, and he's like going to kill her, essentially. And say that that's like nothing. I don't know. That's wild to me. Again, this has like a very quirky kind of tone, but it knows when to be serious. Mm-hmm. And when it is serious, it is harrowing stuff. I mean, at one point in the movie, you think that her daughter was burned alive.
Yeah.
Like, again, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's not Gladiator. You don't have people being eaten by lions and getting decapitated, but I mean, it's still some pretty serious stuff. And again, I think that it just kind of goes to show how tides have shifted in the decades since this was released, because at the, to bring gender into it, it's women's problems that these male critics are not finding serious.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, there are other characters that are men in the film that have their problems solved with the chocolate, but the main people at the heart of all of the most serious stories in this film are women.
Yeah.
And it is interesting that all of the people who are poo pooing it as just an unserious film are all male critics.
I actually didn't notice that. You're actually like right. Well, except for oh, actually, that wasn't a bad thing. She gave it a B minus. She didn't say anything bad about it. I was going to say Lisa from Entertainment Weekly, but no, she gave it a B minus. But she didn't summarize it as anything particularly bad. But no, yeah, you're absolutely right. I actually didn't catch that. But since we talked about the boat scene periodically right there, I actually want to bring up. So this is like my one sort of trivial sort of issue with the plot. And I kind of just want to see what you think. And I'm wondering if it's the casting or wondering if it's just me. I think the one low spot in the movie is the romance between Vion and Rue.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, I really didn't care much. I mean, like, I wasn't like it was bad. I was just like, I don't think them being in a romance together added anything to the plot. I think the river rats showing up or the travelers showing up is very important to the plot, and them interacting is important, but I didn't know what was to be gained from the romance. How did you feel about it?
I completely agree. And this is another thing that's just like a Hollywood problem, is like we need a romance for people to care about the film. We need to tack on some kind of male lead who is going to be the love interest to this protagonist. And it's not just a problem with this film. But yeah, I would also say, so that's another thing that was funny, is like going into this film blind last time. It's like finding out, oh, Johnny Depp's in the movie, and an hour goes by, and I'm like, isn't Johnny Depp in this movie?
Right.
Where so he doesn't even show up until the second half. I will say I like the little quirk that is supposed to make her fall in love with him, is that she can guess everybody's favorite chocolate except him. She keeps giving him stuff, and he's like, "Oh, really good. Not my favorite."
Mm-hmm.
So that was cute. But it is a weak point in the film, and bringing up the passage of time once again. It was funny watching this this time around. I was thinking about how what was going on when we recorded this last time, and a lot has happened to Johnny Depp in the last 10 years, to say the least.
Yeah.
Because, just, I think it was the following year, it might have been 2 years after recording the lost episode, but that's where the famous Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial happened. So I feel like we also were kind of, trashing him a little bit in the movie, when we reviewed it the first time, because at that point in time, I think it was known that there was going to be a lawsuit for defamation.
Yeah.
But the tides kind of shifted with that trial, because years before, the allegations were that Johnny Depp's a monster and all this other stuff. And then the tides fully shifted in his favor, which I don't necessarily agree fully with.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time we were recording this, it was kind of like, oh, Johnny Depp's an abusive monster. So I don't know. That's one of those things I was wondering about, when we were talking, or when we recorded the first time. It's like, I'm sure we brought that up at some point. But I also found it interesting time-wise when this movie came out. So in my opinion, this is one of the most uninteresting Johnny Depp performances of his career. It's just, he likes playing guitar, so he got to be a cool, handsome guy who plays guitar.
And I kind of wonder, and even before all this stuff about Johnny Depp came out, because I'm a long time connoisseur of this movie. Even I think even when I remember watching it the first time, even I just remember thinking I wasn't excited about this side plot.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just
so late.
It's something so late, and there's something about Johnny Depp. He just sort of stands out. like, and not in a good
he
way.
feels he feels weird. He's also doing like a southern
No,
accent, or
he's
like
doing an
or
Irish
Irish.
accent. Yeah, he's doing an Irish
Which is
accent.
weird too, because it's like, why is an Irish guy in France? I don't know. Like, to me, the thing that's kind of annoying about his character is he feels like he's just cool because he is. He never like earns any kind of. It's almost like you're just supposed to care about him because everyone's mean to him,
Yeah,
which feels cheap and emotionally manipulative. I don't like it when it's any kind of writing where it's like, oh, you're supposed to feel sympathy because. I'm not a fan of that. It's not that he's, again, like, in the context of the movie, you do feel bad for him, and you do feel like he's, unfairly maligned by this town just because he's one of the quote unquote river rats. But he's just such an uninteresting character. Like,
yeah,
it's like, oh, he plays guitar and he's cool. So again, without that quirk of like her not being able to guess his favorite, it's just like they have no chemistry. And again, with when this came out, the thing I didn't get to touch on. So this is one of his most uninteresting performances, in my opinion, and just literally like a few years after this, he would go on to be in like Pirates of the Caribbean.
yeah.
I think also this was like around the time he had just been in like he was in other interesting things at the time, like Sleepy Hollow either had just come out or was about to come out.
Right.
Um, so it's weird. Didn't he also is that one of the nominations? Did he get nominated for Best Supporting?
Let me double check.
I don't think so, but I feel like that was something where it's like he got an Oscar nomination, and I would fully disagree with that if that's the case. It feels like he phoned it in. Like his Irish accent isn't believable, really. Like, it's not awful, but it's just, it feels like he didn't give a crap when he was on set.
Right, yeah, he wasn't nominated. He was not nominated at the BAFTA. He was not nominated at the Oscars for
Okay.
this performance.
Okay. Good. Yeah, no, the plot, like the writing as well, it's like there didn't need to be a romance in this. They could have had the river people in the movie without there being any kind of love interest or whatever.
Which, by the way, when
and
they
frankly,
finally when they finally hook up, it's like one of the most unsexy scenes ever. I remember thinking, like, I don't know, the them in the little side, boat that they have or whatever that they're on. I'm just like, this is like the equivalent of like hooking up with some dude and like hit the trailer in his parents' driveway. Like, there's something
Yep.
about this that's just not attractive at all.
Right? Yeah. It's, again, they don't have chemistry. This is not like a romance that I think of as like one of the greatest. It also just doesn't track. It's weird for this movie to have any kind of, again, it's like a very like female focused movie.
Mm-hmm.
So for that character to have like a budding romance with someone it feels thematically off.
Yeah.
Because it's all about like being independent and not like she's helping a woman leave her husband.
Yeah.
So it almost feels kind of like they threw it in there. I'm assuming it's in the book too, but if it isn't in the book, it feels like they threw it in there to be like, oh, but we don't hate men. That's not the point of the movie. We don't hate men, and it's like, it just feels pointless. And if they had cut it out, the movie would not be 2 hours, and it would probably feel a little bit more focused and less all over the place.
Well, I'd actually just argue, like, even if it is in the book, I would argue that probably in the book it's probably handled a lot better, and probably his character's probably more fleshed out than it is in the movie, because he's almost like a manic pixie dream guy, like, a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, he's just kind of there to kind of like maybe disrupt stuff a little bit, but like, other than that, his goal is just that he's there and he's mysterious.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean when I say like you're just supposed to like him because again, he's this feels like Johnny Depp wasn't trying.
Yeah.
Like, he just got to, I'll just do like an Irish accent and I can just show up, say the lines, and play guitar and I'll look really cool. and everyone will think I'm the best ever. Also, it's like it doesn't work so much now since he's like well past middle age, but this was also in an era like 90s, early 2000s. Johnny Depp was a heartthrob. Like I knew girls my age who were like attracted to him during the Pirates of the Caribbean thing. My sister was all over Johnny Depp. So like that was a thing where there were probably a bunch of women who genuinely love him in this movie just because they think he's hot.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah, because I don't. Is there something just like even like I know you say he's funny, it just his casting just seems weird. It's just like he doesn't fit in the movie, like at all, and I can't even tell you why. It's just like the best way to describe it is just like it's like we had like paper dolls, and this was the background, and then we took a paper doll from another set and stuck it on this one, and just like this is also a character. So
I think the whole thing is like the weakest part of the movie. And I
yeah,
don't think he has. They don't have any good romantic chemistry. I thought he had better chemistry as like a proto father figure for the little girl. That was like the stuff that felt heartfelt and cute. Was
yeah,
like when he was pretending to eat the worm and like he's interacting with her imaginary friend. Like that stuff actually made him more likable.
yeah. I
But yeah,
agree.
when he just didn't have any chemistry with the lead whatsoever, and again, it feels like it was tacked on.
Yeah, so like I said, that's the low point of the movie. And this is I think this isn't a movie though. Like we talked about it for a while, but um, this movie doesn't have a lot of like low points though. I think that, and I think the fact that we're able to talk about the song is just how just glaring just that one is. Because I also kind of feel like the his character also kind of slows down the plot a little bit too, because I kind of feel
Yep.
like we were moving fast for the first hour. And if you look at the poster for which I this is one of the cases, and this is like an early 2000s thing. I don't know. There's a lot of early 2000s posters I just don't like, and this is one of them. Because if you look at it, it's literally it's Vion feeding Rue like seductively some chocolate, and I'm just like, that's not the plot of this movie at all, and he's not even in it most of the time. And they even had the tagline though was good, sinfully delicious, which is good. But there's that one. But another one I was thinking of is like even like another one of my favorite movies, Atonement. That I think that poster sucks also, and that's like a 2005, like 4 years later or something. So I don't know what it was with this period of movie posters, but I'm not a fan of them. I almost kind of feel like they weren't trying to be artistic with anything. Like it seems like okay, this is she's the lead. He's not a lead, but he's relevant. So put him on the poster and let's make it super obvious. And it's just I don't know. And it's not a good poster.
It was to get butts in seats. Like I don't know if it actually works, but same thing with Atonement because that movie is. I was under the impression before ever watching it that it was just like a wartime romance,
Yeah,
which it's kind of, but not really.
it's so much more than
And
that.
it's the same thing with this. Like there is romance in it, but it's not really about that. So yeah, again, like my thought process going into this, because I saw the poster when I ordered it on Amazon years and years ago. So I was like, oh look, Johnny Depp's on the poster. Again, my first time ever watching this years and years ago for that episode that never came out. One thing I mentioned was it's like I was under the impression Johnny Depp was going to have a bigger role because his name is like right on the front. He's in the cover. He doesn't even show up in the movie until more than an hour into the runtime.
Right.
So yeah, it's definitely one of the clunkiest parts, and it's weird that that was something that they relied so heavily on in the marketing.
Yeah. I did read the plot synopsis really quick of the book, and it does the romance is in the book, but there's more going on to it. And they did make some choices, I think, definitely for cohesion in because you can do a lot more in a book than you can a movie. And so they made some definite edits to things that happen, but I'm like they cut so much that it was almost like we should have cut the romance also. Uh, keep them showing up. He can be the leader, like you said. I like the idea of him being a proto father figure for Anouk, and that would have been, great. Uh, but yeah, the romance definitely felt a little forced here. So I think that we're getting to sort of like the part where we give our, ratings for this. Do you have any last thoughts you want to get out?
Hopefully I'm not forgetting anything, because there was like some stuff whenever you like the score, for instance, where it's like, oh, that's right, I had the music I wanted to talk about. So I don't think there is. Um, but
Yep.
this whole pairing is very interesting because I feel like we have grown so much doing this podcast that I feel like even though those episodes are lost, and we'll never see the light of day because the audio was just wrecked. There was no way of discerning what I was saying with my botched microphone and all this other stuff. I don't feel like that either of these are going to have lost very much because I feel like we're so much better at talking about movies. And I think we're very good now at like sort of thinking outside the box. Like the whole thing about tradition, I'm almost certain you didn't bring that up last time, and it is so true. And I think it's one of those things you could sit down and point out little details throughout the whole movie of like traditions being broken.
Right. And I
And I
do
think
I really like though that it's not just the tradition of the village, it's even her own traditions too that are problematic
yes,
for the characters. And I think that's something that a lot of movies, especially more of this time, miss out on, and I think this one did very well.
well, and that's the other thing that is great. Again, like I would say that she is kind of not really like a flawed character as much as the people she's helping in the town, but it is very nice at the end because if you go into it, you're kind of like, well, that's sort of a if you want to travel the world and solve people's problems with chocolate, that's cool, but you are dragging this little kid around who clearly doesn't want to do this. Like she has fun with the business end of things, but it's like she said about how it's like, oh, it's really tough for her. She has to make new friends, and we could be off whenever. It's we have no idea when we're gonna leave. Um, and yeah, the imaginary friend is like very clearly her trying to cope with her issues, socializing and or having permanent friends. So it is nice that they, as you say, there's criticism of this tradition of these mysterious, magical South American women traveling through the jungle and solving people's problems with chocolate. So uh, it's it's a great movie. It is simplistic, but I mean, we've talked since we've covered other movies that also are simple, but simple's good. Most of my criticisms of this movie,
Or
big
Johnny
chunk we
Depp.
already talked about. Yeah, it's Johnny Depp, and also the ending felt a little off because I was thinking like, okay, like I know I didn't give this like a perfect score last time, but did I just do that because well, and that too, that's another crazy thing. Like, I believe this was before we even started scoring movies.
Right.
Because anyone who listens now, like, if you go way back to the beginning of the show, we just were like, do you recommend this movie? And because most of the movies we talk about are so solid, like, or even if they're bad, usually we're talking about them because they're so bad they're good, like Valley of the Dolls.
Yeah.
So it was getting like where it's like it's we recommend every movie. We should like score them so that there's actually kind of an idea of like how much we recommend or don't recommend them. Because otherwise,
Right.
it's just every episode is just going to be us gushing about something and then saying, "Oh, you should watch it." Um, so I recommended it because yeah, I don't think that we even scored it. But I was thinking like, would I consider this a perfect movie? The Johnny Depp stuff is a problem, and then the ending feels, I don't want to say rushed, but it feels off. Like it's one of those endings where when it happens, I'm like, oh, it's over now. Like there isn't like kind of a. You could argue that the fire with the river people is like the climax, because that's also the point at which that evil character confesses to the Kant that he set the fire, and the Kant's like, you know what, get out of my town. Like, right. I am trying so hard to rehabilitate you, and you are proving to just be a sinner. Get out. So like there is kind of a climax, but it doesn't feel as climactic or like so it feels almost like when everything happens, it's kind of like, oh, I guess that's it. Because again, and the climax is the Kant going ape shit in the chocolate shop and eating everything.
Yeah.
that is like the ending of the movie, as far as like, okay, like chocolate has solved everyone's problems. The Kant has realized the error of his ways, and then we have the nice little bow wrapped up with the little girl. Like they're screw tradition. The wind can blow all at once. We're staying in this town, and then her kangaroo hops away, and she didn't care.
Yeah,
like that was such a great little ending, and you finally get to see the kangaroo.
And then we find out that the narrator this whole time has been her.
Yep.
Has been a noob.
Yep. So it's a good ending, but there's something about it, and maybe it's because of the Johnny Depp stuff and the fact that the fire, I don't know. There's something about the ending that feels like it could have been more like this is the end of the movie. But it crept up on me this time, even though I remembered this movie for the most part since my last viewing. I was still just kind of like, oh, okay, I guess we're done now. So that's mild criticism. But yeah, if we're doing the ratings at this point, I think it's a great movie. I'm glad that it has made an impression on a lot of young aspiring filmmakers, because again, this was one I heard about all the time in film school.
Yep.
It's, again, speaking of which, it was always women saying that this was one of their favorite movies. So again, I think that is kind of part of the issue with the critics. And the great thing about Rotten Tomatoes is you can see who said what, and I bet that if you just took the reviews written by women, I think that percentage would be a lot higher, and right. Everyone at home can play that little game. So I'm going to give it a 3.5. It's really good. I think there's a couple of flaws, but just not liking it for like the tone is silly, or like, oh, it needs to be dark and serious or whatever. Like, not every Oscar movie needs to be like that. We can we could have more comedies or lighthearted stuff win. That was kind of something that was exciting about Everything Everywhere All at Once a few years ago, winning Best Picture. It's a comedy. A comedy won Best Picture, and it is a very goofy comedy. So, it's nice to have some more diversity. So that's what I rated. But what about you, T?
I'm going to give it, because this is one I really, really enjoy. And one of the things I really, really do enjoy about it is, because I think I've articulated this before, is it gets Catholicism right. I've talked about this a lot in horror films. I'm like, this doesn't even make sense. But I really, really like that. I love the character of Vion. I love the magical realism aspect of this, the sort of real life fairy tale. It has excellent production value. It has excellent scoring. I'm going to give it a 3.8 pitchers of sweet tea out of 4. I almost gave it a 4, but the Johnny Depp part is just a little bit too much for me to like. He's not there for most of the movie, but it's a large enough chunk that it knocked it down a few points for me. I'm also going to say something, because you mentioned how this movie also kind of has a quirky sort of vibe to it. I'm going to say something controversial yet brave. I think this is one production design choice away from potentially having been a Wes Anderson movie. I could see him doing a take on this movie with kind of its quirky sort of vibe, and I could see him doing that. But yeah, 3.8 for me. It's a really enjoyable film, perfect for this time of year, and accidentally timely for our times as well.
Yeah, we'll see if our editor can get it out by Lent or by Easter. We'll see what happens. But what do you think? Let us know down in the comments if you're listening to this on YouTube Music. Also, like and subscribe. Follow us on whatever platform you're listening on. We've been doing the show for going on 6 years at this point. I think it'll be 6 once we like finish this year. But yeah, a whole backlog of episodes you can check out. Maybe you can even guess where this was supposed to air.
I mean, I gave you a date.
There you go. Yeah, but until next time, I've been Whiskey.
I've been Sweet Tea.
Keeping it Kino.
And suck it, Scorsese.
See you next time.
Bye, y'all. Have some chocolate. Reels on the Rocks is a production of La Prince Laboratories. It is edited and produced by Alejandro Castillo and programmed by Jamie King. Original music is provided by Pat Mars and original artwork by Ace Esparza.